Okay, here we are having a special conversation today. We're going to be talking about our new whiskey of the month, which is going to be our whiskey of the month for May, and that is Maker's Mark. You'll see I've come nicely branded in my nice red Maker's Mark t-shirt, but even better than that is that you don't have to just hear my voice today, because beside me is Mai Jeans. And Mai, can you tell everyone your job title?
My official title is Maker's Mark Distillery Diplomat for Pennsylvania.
So Mai is going to help guide this conversation, tell us some really cool tidbits about Maker's Mark, so that when you come in, you are filled with knowledge about the whiskey that we're going to be tasting.
So Maker's Mark was created by Margie and Bill Senior Samuels. It came about because they inherited their family's distillery that was T.W. Samuels Distillery. It was in their family for 100 years, over 100 years. Problem is that it didn't make good whiskey, and they really didn't have a passion to continue the business because the liquid wasn't good. So they sold it. So they had to start from scratch.
Cool. So let's talk about what's in these bottles then, because the whole purpose of it is to drink it and enjoy it. And that's hopefully what people will be doing all month long in May and beyond. So Maker's Mark is, more unique, I would say, in the bourbon world, because it is a wheated bourbon. As well as obviously other production methods that they do exclusively, like rotating their barrels and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about the mash bill, how that came to be and why it's ended up as a wheated product?
They started researching what would be the best grains, the best mash bill. And what they found out is that removing rye from the mash bill and replacing it with wheat made a smoother, more full mouth whiskey. They started baking loaves of bread and eating them at the dinner table and using different grains. And that's how they found out what their flavor profile was. And that's how they settled on soft red winter wheat. So everything from Maker's Mark is 70% corn, 14% malted barley, and 16% soft red winter wheat.
Is it fair to say that Maker's Mark goes well with a ham and cheese sandwich then?
Maker's Mark tastes good with peanut butter. Maker's Mark tastes good. Maker's Mark tastes good with anything. It tastes wonderful with a hot dog on opening day. It's wonderful with a fried bologna sandwich. You can drink Maker's Mark and you can drink it with and however you want.
I feel like Maker's Mark has become an entryway into bourbon for a lot of people. It's a lot of people's first taste. It was my first bourbon I was ever introduced to,
right.
And now look what happened to me. I think that part of that has got to do, obviously, with the bottle, but the approachable palate and that wheated profile has got to be a winning concept for that.
At Maker's Mark, we don't just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks, especially with our innovation. It always started with a purpose, and Maker's Mark started with a purpose, and it was what we call Bill's flavor vision. So he had an idea, he had a thought to make a bourbon that was approachable, full flavored, full of vanilla and caramel up front. And that's what the red soft winter wheat did. And
they nailed that recipe, but then they've kept it ever since. So lots of other distilleries will have 2, 3, 4 different recipes that they're making and make different brands out of it. Maker's Mark have made their portfolio of brands just from the one recipe that they've made. So we have 3 of their different bottles right here. The red top, obviously, we've just chatted about. A couple of the other ones that you'll see featured as a flight for Whiskey of the Month in May here at the Twisted Tail is also the cask strength.
Yes.
And then our own bottle of Private Select.
Yeah.
But Private Select starts as cask strength, right?
It does, yes.
And cask strength is released with different releases at different alcohol percentages?
Yes. So cask strength is always going to vary in alcohol percentage because it's cask strength. So we just filter out the charcoal and it goes straight into the bottle. So whatever the percentage of proof that comes out of that barrel is what's going to be put on the bottle.
And so these are not single barrels, these are batched.
Yes, sir.
Why would people want to taste these side by side? What would they expect in a tasting profile to be the difference?
Well, starting with cask strength, the proof is definitely going to hit you on the nose at first. You're always going to smell the alcohol first. But also there's a lot more robust peppery flavors that come through on top of the vanilla and the caramel. And the dried fruits are definitely there. They're very dominant in the cask strength. When you go into our classic, it does come down to 90 proof. It'll always be 90 proof. That's what makes it a lot more approachable, bringing that alcohol down. Bill Jr. calls it pain It's also called the Kentucky Hug, but that alcohol that you feel in your chest, it does bring that burn down a little bit, so you can work through the liquid. And the vanilla and the caramel are very much up front in the classic, and that's what makes it really, really easy to drink. Also, too, in other bourbons, you see other bourbons at 80 proof. We keep it at 90 proof, so it has a little bit more backbone.
So this cask strength has come out at 56.1, so 112.
Yeah, that's cool.
0.2 proof.
I'm all about 112.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice and potent, keeps the concentration
Yes.
of it. Tell us a little bit about Margie.
Margie was our marketing department before our marketing department was a thing. She was definitely the creator while Bill was the doer. So Bill was working on the liquid inside the bottle, and Margie was working on everything else. So she really had a passion to showcase Maker's Mark, to make sure that people knew how wonderful the liquid was, because it wasn't just about making your regular whiskey, distilling it because you had grain that you didn't want to waste. There was a lot of intent and quality making the liquid.
So here is the Maker's Mark bottle. Everybody is familiar with this bottle. It's an iconic shape. It's got the red wax top on it, the ripped label. I mean, this has been the symbol of Maker's Mark since the beginning, I think. This is very intentional product branding that has put this bottle on the back bar of every single bar around the world. So it's obviously worked really well. So why don't you tell us how this was born and came to be?
So the Maker's Mark bottle was actually created, the shape, the design, everything was Margie's idea. So we have a saying that you buy your first bottle because of Margie and you buy your second bottle because of Bill. Margie was so passionate about making sure that we had the right packaging. Not only did she come up with the hand dipping of the red wax, but she came up with the idea to hand tear all of our labels. Yeah. And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure, I think she hand tore the first 1,200 labels, and Bill Sr. was like, yeah, no, we got to find another way to do this because this is not efficient. But we also say we're purposely inefficient at Maker's Mark because we've done everything the same way since day one, and it's because of the quality, and it's also because of the consistency. We want to make sure we have a quality, consistency product. And if Bill and Margie did it that way, then we're still going to do it that way to this day. She also came up with this SIV symbol right here at the top, and of course you'll see the SIV symbol everywhere. Yeah, and right here on my sweater. Yeah. So it's right here on the bottle in your t-shirt. Right. So that is one of, outside of our red wax, that is our what you call the mark of the maker. Margie collected pewter figurines. I like to say that collecting pewter figurines in the 1940s is kind of like how people collect Pokemon these days, maybe. But the very special limited pewter figurines, they had the artist's signature on the bottom, and that was a stamp, and that was called the mark of the maker. And because of how special and very refined this liquid was, especially at the time where quality liquid and quality whiskey was not really in demand, and they were making something very different at a time where there was no demand for it, to showcase that this was something that was crafted from a real craftsman, that mark of the maker was very important for that. Margie created this symbol to kind of place information about the family's lineage. So the S on this SIV stands for Samuels, which Margie, Bill Sr. Samuels. The SIV4 is actually stands for Bill being a fourth generation distiller, which actually we did some research and that's actually wrong. He's actually a sixth generation distiller, but here we are, it was already made, so we keep it, yeah.
It's like an upside down printed stamp.
It is.
Every bottle.
And the star stands for Star Hill Farms, which is the farm that the distillery sits on to this day. The farm has expanded immensely over the years, but Star Hill Farms is a wonderful place, and that's where Maker's Mark started.
That's really cool. There's a lot of thought put into that branding.
A lot of thought, but also she named our whiskey. Margie came up with the name of Maker's Mark. Yeah.
All about the women.
Yeah. So you can, when you go to the distillery, you can actually see the inspiration for how she came up with the name Maker's Mark. But going back to those pewter figurines, there was a book that she would authenticate these figurines in. And that book was called Maker's Mark.
Cool.
Right? She designed the shape of the bottle. The shape of the bottle is homage to her collection of turn-of-the-century cognac bottles. And the pinch in the neck is intentional so that when you pour the liquid, it glugs. Luxury cognac bottles, they were dipped in wax. And that's the idea of the bottle being dipped in wax. And they're hand dipped every day. And we dip millions of them every year.
Some bottles, they drip all the way, like halfway down the bottle,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Did that have a special name?
Yes, they're actually they're called slam dunks, and we intentionally do that. So on the bottling line, there are people who intentionally slam dunk, like over dip a bottle. And I mean, it varies, but I know that maybe it's a pallet, like a whole pallet of Maker's Mark, like one bottle per pallet. Yeah.
One per pallet.
Yeah, so they're collectibles. I know in other places in other states where they're like, mom and pop liquor shops, they like hoard them and set them aside and collect them. So to find one out in the wild is really, really special. And I've been working for Maker's Mark for 6 years. I've only found one in the wild in like 6 years. So
Wow. We got one on our pallet of Maker's Mark Private Select
really?
that we found. Yeah, there was
Oh,
one in
that's
there, which was
awesome.
really cool. I took it home to keep it.
Yes.
My wife opened it.
Yes. Oh God.
So now it's an empty bottle of Maker's Mark. So if you find one on the shelf, grab one.
Grab it. Yeah.
But I still recommend drinking it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Because
drink
why
it
not?
Regardless.
Drink it regardless.
It's buy one. Was it buy one to rock, and then buy one to stock?
I like that.
Yeah.
You're full of all the phrases. Do you know what I think? That whiskey always tastes better when you know more about it.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
thanks for that. That's really cool. Every sip now is going to have more depth. So, Maker's Mark is a great backbone for cocktails as well. We use it in a lot of different cocktails here at the restaurant. And definitely we're going to be featuring this all month long as a mint julep. So anybody who thought that whiskey was for the cold months, your mind is going to be blown.
Blown.
This is going to be a drink that's going to revolutionize your life and Maker's Mark sales. So there's so much going on in May. You have many reasons to visit the Twisted Tail, but this red top is going to be your biggest one throughout the whole month of May. So we look forward to seeing you very soon. And Mai, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I look forward to seeing all you guys here at Twisted Tail.